Republican politician Henry Jarvis Raymond founded the New York Times, one of America's most popular daily newspapers, in 1851. Originally, the company was privately owned and was purchased by Adolph Ochs in 1896. Since then, the company has continued to be controlled by the Ochs-Sulzberger family even to this day, despite going public in the 1960s and moving to a dual-class shared business model. The Ochs-Sulzbergers control 88% of the current shares. Historically, the company has been structured vertically, with communication coming from top directors and eventually trickling down to even the most part-time staff writers. Today, the company is controlled by an 8-member board of directors comprised of members of the Ochs-Sulzberger Family Trust. Any changes to the company mission, structure, or function must be approved by at least 6 of the 8 board members. Fundamentally, the company has stuck to this very classical approach to control and the decision-making process. As in most industries, wealthy white men have historically dominated the news industry in America, banning women and minority groups from entering their ranks. The New York Times is no exception to this rule. Jane Grant was the first woman ever officially hired by the company in 1912. She wrote for the society section of the paper for 15 years, producing pieces largely focusing on issues relating to women in the workforce. Although she was originally told not to disclose her gender identity, she became a token of sorts for the company and a model for women journalists of the future to follow. Today, the New York Times, while still strictly vertically controlled by the Ochs-Sulzbergers, has transformed from a System 1 classical approach male-dominated company to a much more diverse and open-minded organization in regards to both content and staff. While the paper originally only supported Republican political candidates, they are now considered to be one of the most liberal-leaning news outlets in America. The company prides itself on a multicultural philosophy and tries to fill its headquarters with the most talented staff of all races, religions, and backgrounds in order to produce a more far-reaching range of content geared towards the diverse audience in America today. The New York Times Company displays its diverse pride within its web presence on their corporate website. Here they dedicate an entire section to diversity and inclusion. They mention that, in a rapidly changing world, our diverse workforce will strengthen our competitive position in the global marketplace and help us to achieve our company's core purpose, which is to enhance society by creating, collecting, and distributing high-quality news and information. This shows us that the company's prominent rationale for a diverse workforce is to benefit the company itself. A diverse workforce will enhance their creativity and problem-solving abilities by bringing in wider perspectives and people who think outside of the box, ultimately better choices for the company. The company mentions that they ensure that diversity of thought and opinion is embedded into their organization. This means that they value more than just physically having people there of different backgrounds, but also that they welcome those who wish to challenge ideas and express their own views, which is more of a human resources approach. The New York Times specifically states that it goes beyond numbers and statistics, which would be first-generation affirmative action. Their senior leaders take a very active role in reviewing all top talent, studying their career development plans, and making sure that they monitor the performance and development of key individuals. This means that part of the New York Times rationale for diversity is resource acquisition. They want not only a diverse workforce, but the best personnel for the job. Not only does the New York Times take the time to make sure that they communicate their welcoming attitude toward internal diversity by their statements, but as you look through the diversity and inclusion portion of their corporate site, they display pictures of various employees from different departments that come from different ethnic backgrounds. You can also see all of the awards and recognitions given to the New York Times concerning diversity, such as being named one of the best companies for multicultural women in 2013. Within their web presence, you can find out even more about how they take diversity into consideration with their sponsored events, inclusion in advertising, and publications. The New York Times Sunday Magazine publishes a special diversity and inclusion section each year, addressing the most current diversity and inclusion topics in the marketplace, showing us that not only do they value internal diversity, but external diversity as well. The New York Times has a very unique way of recruiting diverse talent. They aim to recruit highly skilled men and women from diverse backgrounds by partnering with numerous minority-focused organizations, including the National Association of Black Journalists, the National Organization of Hispanic Journalists, and the Asian American Journalists Association, as well as the National Gay and Lesbian Journalists Association, just to name a few. Mentoring, career development, and training programs play a crucial role in cultivating a diverse and wide-ranging workforce that the New York Times provides for each employee. On the company page, the New York Times talks in depth about their commitment to providing a diverse workplace, stating that our guiding principles on diversity and inclusion are respect and fairness, inclusion of different points of view, work and life balance, and development of talents. That is why our diversity and inclusion programs are varied depending on the needs of the businesses and geographic locations in our multimedia organization. The New York Times has also established a very diverse reader demographic. The New York Times, being the most liberal-leaning news outlet in America, has drawn the attention of many young readers. According to Pew Press, the Center for People and the Press, regular readers of the New York Times are younger than average. Nearly a third of all regular New York Times readers are under the age of 30. The New York Times fills its frontline staff that represent the company with people of diverse backgrounds, including Desiree Dancy, who is Chief Diversity Officer and Vice President of Corporate Human Resources. She leads the New York Times Company's diversity and inclusion efforts and is responsible for corporate human resource processes in the company. Some tactics that the company embraces to create a stronger and more dynamic workforce is their mentoring and development program and employee affinity networks. In addition to a variety of leadership development courses, they offer programs such as Communicating Across Cultures, which enables employees to share their insights and thoughts so that all staff can perform to their full potential. Another core tactic that the company takes very seriously is their rules of the road approach. Each employee must obey these rules for the reputation of the company, some of which include be stewards of our company's brand reputation and assets, treat each other with honesty, respect, and civility, and uphold the highest journalistic, business, and personal ethics. As Desiree Dancy quoted, our company's statement of values call for us to embrace diversity and inclusion. These factors require that we report our diverse cities, nation, and world with perception and insight. Only by having a staff as wide as it is deep, broad in perspective, backgrounds, and experiences, are we able to capture the multitude of voices of America and the world with true fidelity. For over 150 years, the New York Times has strived to put out top news to their customers, upholding only the highest standards. They have transformed with the times, moving from a classical business structure to a truly diverse, multicultural human relations organization, incorporating socialization and learning programs for employees. They believe that having a diverse workforce will enable them to better reach their ever-changing diverse communities and customer base and continue to expand their clientele. While they value their new customers, they still work hard to show that they appreciate their long-term ones that have stayed by their side. For this, they work hard to meet every customer's expectation by only putting out the best work possible. As Adolph Hawks said, the New York Times reports all the news that's fit to print.